Okay, let's do some reflecting now on chapters 7 and 8 of Esther. There is an issue that gets raised here towards the end of the book of Esther that it seems to me is very pertinent to our daily lives, to our world, situations that we see that arise in the news, and also pertinent to the season of Lent that we are observing. The question that gets raised is the only way of achieving justice through retaliation? That seems to be what happens in the book of Esther, right? The Jewish people are threatened with annihilation, and finally, towards the end of the story, they are given the means, the freedom to defend themselves by any means necessary, taking up the same means as their enemies. And so there is a fight. There is a violent situation that resolves the matter satisfactorily for the Jewish people. They are saved. And we're told at the end of chapter 8 that there is a festival that exists that is based on this story. The festival of Purim, I've mentioned that before, where the Jews come together annually to celebrate their salvation through Mordecai and Queen Esther. So things are settled through violence. And there are story upon story upon story upon story in the Bible where this happens. God becomes fed up with his people's rebellion, and so he withdraws his support from them, hands them over to their enemies, and the people of Israel suffer for years under the tyranny of their enemies. And finally, they cry out to God for deliverance, and God hears them, God forgives them, and then God restores his presence to them and leads them into battle against their enemies. And they raise a superior force and put down their enemies. So through vengeance, retaliation, the score is evened. And that is what we call justice. So this is the kind of justice that we very often seek when we are otherwise attacked or threatened by someone, by some situation, or some harm comes to someone we love. We want to get even with them. That's our first impulse. That's the first impulse always, I think, for human beings. And often, it's impossible to conceive of any other way to even out the score unless we adopt the same means as those who would harm us. But as it turns out, God does develop another means of achieving justice. And that's what the season of Lent is really all about. We have been on this journey now for several weeks following Jesus to the cross. The cross and Jesus' sacrifice on the cross achieves justice in our relationship with God. Jesus sheds his innocent blood on the cross, and through our faith in what Jesus has done for us on the cross, we're told in the New Testament that we are justified with God. Our relationship is restored, and things are made right between ourselves and God. Not through violent retaliation, but through suffering and through sacrifice. Now, what does that really mean for us in our daily lives and in the decisions that we have to make, particularly when we feel we are threatened or attacked? How do we apply the type of justice that God rendered through Jesus? Can we really achieve that through sacrifice, through forgiveness, through turning the other cheek, as opposed to an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth? It doesn't seem like that most times, but if we are able to summon the ability to forgive those we regard as our enemies, those who would wish to harm us, who mistreat us, then we are able to achieve a level of peace within ourselves that just can't be achieved through vengeance. I mean, the vengeance initially feels really good. But as we live with that for a while, we begin to have some regrets and remorse about that. Forgiveness lifts that weight from us. God has demonstrated this is possible through the death of his Son on the cross, through his death and resurrection. The world is brought back into relationship with God, and there is a peace between God and the world. Justification, which is another form of the word justice. That is the message of the Lenten season. That is what we are observing during this time. And it does give us a reason to reflect and consider that there is perhaps a different way to justice than through vengeance. That is all I have for you at this time. Next week we will pick up with chapters 9 and 10 of Esther and round out our reflection on God's providence. And I look forward to seeing you then. God bless you.